Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have the honor of having with me Kene Iloenyosi. Kene is an author, career coach, and speaker who guides people to discover their purpose and find their career sweet spot. His books, Finding Your Sweet Spot, The DNA of Talent, and his most recent, Put Your Purpose to Work, have helped thousands of people live out their purpose in the work that they do. Kene, thank you so much for being here. We got to chat for a few minutes before I hit record. My day is already better for having met you, so thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, let's get right into it by starting more or less at the beginning. And I like to kind of ask this as a two-parter these days because I find that a coach's journey is both very general and also very specific. So, how did you become or maybe discover that you already were a coach? And then also what prompted you to take that discovery and move it into a coaching business?
Well, the trigger was after I wrote my first book, Finding Your Sweet Spot in 2012. And I got on the speaking circuit because of the book. And I got requests from people who wanted to learn more and sort of be helped to put some of the things I talked about in the book into practice. And so I realized, oh man, there's an opportunity to help people put this to work. And, with a keynote, you speak for an hour or 45 minutes, but with coaching, you get to actually help people implement what you've talked about. And so that was how it all started. And, one thing led to another, and you're like, wow, okay, this actually comes naturally. And friends who've known me from when I was a kid were like, yeah, we're not surprised you're doing that. You've always done that. You've always told us what to do. I'm like, wow, interesting. I didn't know that.
It's funny how that works when you're fortunate enough to find your path and find your purpose. Almost everybody in your life who's been close to you, family, close friends over a long period of time, they're like, they basically are saying something to the effect of, I'm glad you finally figured that out. We've known that for a while. And you're always like, well, why didn't you tell me? It's like, well, I don't know. You don't know how to say something like that. But it's one of those little pieces of evidence that's so rewarding and inspiring when you realize, maybe last of all, that you're finally on the path that you were always meant to be on, that maybe you were always on it, just didn't realize it. I find that to be one of the big reasons why coaches are so inspiring to me and why I feel like they can be so helpful is because they're able to share what that's like, what that feeling is like. Because a lot of people, maybe they've had a bit of that feeling, but they haven't had the whole experience, and being able to understand what that's going to feel like is such a motivator and a guide to the kind of changes that people want and that your books provide. Sorry, I'm talking more than you. I'm very excited.
But you're right. And I find with working with my clients, I use an assessment to help them figure out their natural abilities, because what I always say is you are how you are for why you are. And the why is the purpose. The how is your natural abilities, how you are naturally wired. And you find that people are constantly thinking about, well, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I'm like, well, the easier thing to start with is figuring out what your abilities are, because you can use assessments to determine that. And then after we get through the assessments and they start to see, okay, this is how I am naturally wired, I have them think back to when they're between age 1 and 10. And just, document what your life was like. What did you enjoy doing? How did you play as a kid? And you find that everyone can tie certain things they did as kids back to certain things that the assessments say about them. They can see how they behaved in certain ways. And I'm like, okay, this is affirmation that you have always been like this. And it's, once that affirmation is set, it's easier to now start showing them, well, now that you believe in this, let's figure out how we put it to work. Because the truth is, people have been, you've always behaved how you were, but you've never really connected that as a natural ability that you can put to work.
It's like when you're trying to express an idea and you don't quite have the words for it. Maybe you don't quite have the language. And this is a little bit of a telling on myself a little bit, but I was always a very straightforward thinker, very logically minded when I was younger for a while. but I always had different feelings inside me that I couldn't quite express. And so they just kind of rested. And when I began to be inspired by poetry, I began to find my language, my internal and external language changing. And so I had words, I had ideas, I had connections I was able to build using that language that allowed it allowed me to understand myself and what was already there even better. And I feel like life is a discovery process like that. And so it's very energizing, very comforting and energizing at the same time to know that that's possible, and that to have a coach guide you to that kind of realization I'm finding it more and more necessary. Yeah. Not just optional and inspirational, but necessary.
Yeah, I think coaches can help shorten the journey, because for any intentional person, they can figure things out. That's the truth. If you are intentional, you can really figure most things out. But what the coach does for people is they sort of know, okay, the right questions to ask, the right places to guide you to help shorten the process.
As you could tell, I'm very engaged, and I feel like I could just sit here and chat with you for hours, but I want to make sure we talk a little bit more specifics about your process. Who do you focus on coaching, and how do you focus on coaching them? Is there an age group or a profession or a type of career that you focus on? Are you mostly one-to-one? Obviously you have a number of books. Do you do group coaching? You do some keynote speaking? What's your maybe not what's your focus, but maybe what's the thing that's most presently exciting about your coaching business, your coaching practice?
Well, let me answer the very first question you asked. Core audience, Gen Zs and millennials, because they are the future of the workforce. And I do that because I strongly believe that your purpose, your natural abilities must be used at work. We're going to spend about 75% of our active working years at work. And so, there's no reason to work in a crummy place. And when I say a crummy place, it's not that you're not making good money, but you are dissatisfied, you are disengaged, and all you're doing is working just for the money. That's a sad way to live.
Yeah.
You should love getting up on, like we were talking about earlier, about you, what you were saying about Tuesdays. You should love waking up on Mondays to go to work, to go do what you do. So that's a big belief for me. And yes, I market to Gen Zs and millennials, but I've worked with people in their 60s. So, I'm not shutting anyone out, but my core audience is millennial Xers and Gen Ys and Zs. I'm an Xer. I work with Xers as well, but core audience Y and Z. Process, or what I'm excited about, I've been coaching since 2013, but putting a formal coaching process in place started about 2014, 2015. I've done, it's a 4-week coaching program that I do. It's a group coaching process that I do for, right now, my biggest client is Georgia Tech, the Alumni Association. And they send them, they sort of filter them to me for those who have been in the workplace for a while and they want to make the career transition and want to get it right this time. I also do one-on-one coaching with so many, there are people who don't want it's not that they don't want the structure, but they want more personal attention. And because of their schedule, they want the freedom to schedule the coaching around their time, which works for me as well. And I do keynotes. A lot of corporations bring me in to talk about how their employees can be more productive at work by engaging their natural abilities. So it's a broad mix of.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a tremendous focus paired with with flexibility, very adaptable, and I feel like that speaks. Like that in and of itself speaks very well to your coaching approach, because obviously you have your specifics, you have your people you're focused on, but you're not excluding anything. And you're very flexible, very adaptable, very agile in how you deliver your coaching to individuals, to teams, to companies. And I feel like that's an important part of a healthy, thriving coaching practice, one that's going to make a difference like yours is clearly.
Yeah. I think it's important to, and I learned this very early in marketing, define your core audience so that you're not just spinning your wheels trying to get everyone in the door. If you are focused on your core audience, they know people who are out of your core audience, but who need what you have, and they will bring them or they'll refer them. But from a standpoint of focus, you know who your target audience is. And I've found that it saved me a lot of stress. When I started out, especially in the speaking business, I was going to high schools, I was going to colleges, I was going to corporations, I was going to associations. And I quickly realized after about a year and a half that, man, I am running myself ragged. I'm in all these verticals and I'm not going in depth anywhere. And I realized that, I don't have the ability to connect with high school students. It's just not me. It's not, I learned that quickly. It's just not me. It's not me. Yeah, but when you start out, like you talked about adding value, there's the adding value part, there's the passion, but there's also the part about being paid to come speak. And so I was going wherever I was paid to come speak. And, now it's easy for me to say no, because, going to speak to high school students, connecting with them is critical. And I don't have the lingo, all the things you have to do it's just not me. So that's a very easy no for me. I don't care how much you pay me.
And I feel like that's really at the heart of how to be successful as a coach, is to understand who your audience is, but also to understand that you can influence the people who will influence those who you want to help. So you can have a profound effect on the teachers and the mentors who these high school students are going to meet along the way. And and you don't have to try to be everything to everyone, to connect with everyone at their level, because that's learning. I feel like almost each age group is its own language. And like you were saying, the lingo, and there's just all these different, like, I'm one of those sad people who only really knows one language well enough to speak it. But like I've had really beautiful people in my life who speak many languages, and their ability to think in those languages is what defines their fluency. And that's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to speak 15-year-old. I feel like that ship has sailed. I can have an understanding, and I can definitely have empathy, but it's going to be somebody else who's much closer to their language, who can speak directly to them, that's going to help them. And so if I can find those people and connect with them, the rising tide raises all boats.
That's right. And it's now it's easy. I will say yes to come speak to teachers at teachers. I mean, sometimes I've done things for like the Georgia Teachers Association when they have events. Yeah, I'll go speak to them, and I'll resource them to go back and help their students. But me going into their schools, nah, it's just nah. It's nah.
Before we go, because I'm looking at the clock and I'm just realizing that like time is flying.
Yeah.
Before we go, to keep this short and sweet, where can people both find out more about you and also connect with you and meet you? I know everyone has their preferred social media to connect on, and of course you've got a website, but like where do you like people to learn more about you, and where do you like people to come to meet you?
Really, it's all through the website, www.talentrevolution.me. That's where you can learn the most, learn about me, and shoot me an email from the website. My other social media links are on there: LinkedIn, Instagram, and I believe Facebook. But you can tell if I had to think about the third one, you can tell like, okay. Shoot me an email from the web. Pretty much the clients that have reached out to me or people I've worked with have either, found me on LinkedIn, gone to my website, found out more about the workshops and the programs, connected with me through the website, and, I've worked with them, or someone that I've worked with has referred them to me.
Fantastic. I have so many more things I'd love to talk with you about. I bump into this. This is the major problem of this podcast for me. Dang it, I have so much more to talk about, but I like getting in, getting out, being short, being sweet, being succinct. I feel like it lets a lot more people listen to a lot more different coaching approaches. So thank you so much, Kene, for being here. I really I hope my gratitude is flowing through the screen, because I'm really appreciative of your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the interview, and I really like what you guys are doing. This is, you know, the concept connects with just the bite-sized things people like to listen to. So if someone knows they can get good information in 10, 15 minutes, they'll listen to it. So I like it, and well done with getting so much discussed in such a short time.
Well, thank you. It's pretty easy, because coaches, I have found, are emotionally accessible, intellectually accessible, and they know how to articulate their internal and external life. You're essentially the ideal interview guest. I couldn't build you in a lab and make you any better than you are. So really, it's just a matter of facilitation. All I have to do is show up in the room and just ask a couple questions, and then the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah. You've done a good job, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kene. And thank you to the audience listening, and we'll talk to you again real soon.